Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, Opie shares a personal journey from foster care to marriage, recounting challenges with early parenthood and infidelity. Despite attempts at reconciliation, the marriage ends in divorce, with Opie gaining custody of their children. The story highlights the importance of communication, trust, and the consequences of hasty decisions. Now let's get into the story. I was in the foster care system until I got married when I turned 18. I was living with foster parents that I lived with for about a year and a half. Around that time, I started taking courses in community college. That's where I met my wife, Julie. She was charming and bright when she spoke to me. She stood out against any girl I'd ever met, and I was immediately smitten. We had sneaky, unprotected intimate for a year and a half while attending college together until she became pregnant with our first child. We were kind of forced to get married faster than I would have liked to. We were really young and simply did not have the guidance I wish we had. Our elders were all Christian and extremely traditional, so the wedding was pretty much planned for us. We attended mandatory marriage counseling before we got married, but we were never asked any deep or real personal questions. It was mostly focused on what the Bible said about marriage, not about how we were feeling or thinking about all this. I was still in love with Julie, so we went through with the marriage and had our daughter. When my wife fell pregnant a second time, our baby was just 4 months old. After we had 2 babies, we needed a large income as quickly as possible. Due to my foster care background and lack of stability, I found it impossible to stick to a job for longer than a year. It was like torture to try focusing on any task for most of the day, for most of the year, and for most of my life. I never had to commit to anything this long. And speaking of that, our intimate life was starting to dull already. I guess I took out my frustrations on my wife sometimes without realizing it, and I eventually started looking for other people to talk to. Using my phone, my wife discovered this, which led to the following disaster. My foster parents were informed of my behavior, including late nights out, that they offered Julie a little getaway at their house while I stayed with the babies. They took her out to eat and stayed up late to watch movies and play games. It was good, innocent fun until I found out otherwise. One day after my wife returned from her getaway, my foster mother took me out to lunch and told me some disconcerting news. Apparently after she went to bed, Julie came on to my dad while they were watching a movie. After my wife came back home, my dad crumbled at my mom's feet and told her they had intimate. He begged her forgiveness. She didn't know how she was going to handle it, but knew she needed to tell me immediately because I deserved to know. I stayed out of the house for a long time while I processed this. When I returned home, my wife already knew that I was informed of her infidelity. She was a wreck. It looked like she had been crying for a while. She begged me to start over with her. She understood she fucked up, but it was because she didn't feel like we had any connection or communication anymore. I stayed with my foster parents while deciding what to do. Julie had the children while I was away, and it helped me clear my head. I stayed away for 5 weeks to really let my wife lay in the bed she made. She called me every day to talk about how I was feeling and what I needed from her. She video called for me to see the babies. She said she missed me terribly and prayed every day that I'd come back to her. I guess her prayers worked because we started attending counseling and seeing psychologists. It worked for some time, but eventually we started failing each other again. She mentioned that she felt guilt every day and that she would never be able to make up for the pain she caused me. I finally filed for divorce and took the babies with me to my foster parents' house. They were thrilled to get to know the children better and had nothing but time and money to spend doting over them. My wife hated this, but I was determined to keep my children out of the foster care system, and I was going to remain their father. She was miserable and I couldn't trust her to communicate with me or keep me in their lives. She fought tooth and nail in court to win full custody of our children. but since she was accused of infidelity and didn't have a place to live or any income, I was awarded custody. She went on to have more than a few children with other men and never found any stability. The lesson I learned was not to have unprotected intimate and never get married quickly. She still pays me child support and only sees the children a few times a year. I certainly wish the efforts and lessons we learned would have been enough to repair our relationship. You have quite the tale. Today's second story. In this story, Opie discovers his wife is having an affair through explicit messages and videos on her phone. After consulting with a lawyer, he decides to divorce her, seeking full custody of their daughters due to the affair and its impact on their family life. The divorce process involves legal actions, including obtaining evidence, gaining custody, and navigating interactions with his mother-in-law. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I have been married since we were 25. We are 38 now. We met in college, got married, and everything has been great. We both graduated, got good jobs, and started our lives together. Me and my wife both made good money, so money was never an issue for us. My wife worked for her dad's small business while I worked for a very large company. After a few years, my boss left the company out of nowhere and they needed someone to take over. The only person who knew how to run the department was me. So I got a major pay jump, a better bonus, and better benefits. So at 28, I was making probably 3 times more than my wife. That same year, my wife gave birth to our first daughter, then 2 years later, our second. My wife, due to working for her father, was able to be more diverse and working well. Around 5 years ago, my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly. That left my mother-in-law and wife in a hard position: sell the company or run it themselves. My mother-in-law had no clue how to run it, so my wife said she would do it. After my wife took the company, it did just as well as when her father ran it. With that being said, my wife got a huge pay increase, more than me. I was proud of her. Going from a basic worker to running a whole company isn't easy. Anyway, our daughters started suffering from not seeing their parents. Me and my wife discussed one of us staying home. She said the company you work for will be fine without you. Mine could go under. I agreed. So I quit my job and became a stay-at-home dad and husband. And I do everything. I make sure the girls are all taken care of. I cook, clean, fix things, make sure errands are run, you name it. I pamper my wife when she gets home from work. This went well for a while until about a year ago. My wife was always very appreciative of what I did and loved it. She has become very mean lately, saying things like, "Do you do anything?" Or "How about you work for real?" I work my butt off every day, making sure you don't have to lift a finger when you get home at all. Also, I had a real job, but I quit to raise and take care of the girls, our home, and you. Not to mention my wife is very sexual, always has been. She quit initiating intimate and I asked, she is never in the mood. That was very odd. Eventually, I quit trying. I just thought with all the pandemic crap and everything else, she was just very stressed and it was getting to her. I started trying harder to make her happy. Nothing ever worked. Last weekend, my oldest had a softball game, so I get everything ready and we go. During the game, I wanted to take a video of my mom and dad since they live in another state and don't get to see my daughters that often. I forgot my phone, so I asked my wife if I could see hers. She had been attached to it all day, so it would be good for her to get off it. Anyway, she hands it to me and says she is going to get a drink and a snack. She gets up. I video my daughter when a message comes up on some app. I check and I can't even fathom what I see. My wife and this guy from her work, who is 8 years younger, are sexting and sending videos and pics talking about how great the intimate was, and then me. He is saying how I am some wimp who can't get a real job taking care of his woman, and my wife agrees with him. I couldn't believe what I saw. I was so devastated and angry all at the same time. I heard my wife coming back, so I closed the app and started videoing on the ride home, and when we get home, my wife tries to talk to me and I am not in the mood. Eventually, we lay in bed, and for the first time, I guess they hadn't met in a while, trying to have intimate. I tell her I am not in a mood. She says, if you were going to be a bitch about everything, you can sleep on the couch. I got up and went to the couch and now have been here since. I don't know how to move forward with this. I really just don't know where to start. My wife was my everything. My girls are my world, and all of that is dying. Update. First off, I do have the text, pics, videos, and everything. Second, I don't any of the company. It is 50-50 between her and my mother-in-law. Third, I can't sleep in bed. I have been sleeping in the guest bedroom every night, and that is where I will be staying to answer. I have decided to divorce her anyway. This morning, I called a firm in another town to avoid anyone finding out. Thankfully, they were able to get me in this morning as someone had canceled after dropping off my girls. I drove over there. To make a long story short, he is a very good lawyer. I showed him what I had. He said that luckily for me, with the evidence I have, she will be pretty much screwed in the divorce, seeing as I quit my job to raise our girls. She is never home. She is having an affair. Prioritizes this man over me and my girls, and she will lose very easily. He basically said we will get child support and alimony. I will keep the house, and she will have to pay for it as long as my girls live there. Also, he stated that we could even try for more money since I'm considered no longer viable in the working world to help me pay for more education to get a job. Some of you were right. He said to not work until after the divorce is over. He said since you are the husband, if you have a job, you can lose a lot of this. He asked if I wanted full custody. I said that I don't mind my wife seeing her girls on the weekends every once in a while, but I would want mostly full custody. He said since she had an affair in the marital home, I can basically do what I want. He also stated that bringing over a strange man to the house put the girls in danger and makes her guilty. So I will be going for full custody where she can get weekends. Once, maybe twice a month. No man will be allowed around my girls, and if there are, she could face problems with me if I find out. I just don't want that piece of garbage around my girls. He eventually said to keep quiet until the draft are ready, and then he will issue someone to serve her and have it issued that she is required to leave the home. He said he should have it done sometime next week. Update to preface. I have talked to my lawyer about these posts. I didn't go into too much detail. They did tell me, though, as long as I keep them brief and not super specific, that I can post. But I just have to be careful about what I put on to not lead to too many details. That is that we will start with the test. I was able to get an STD on myself and a paternity test on my girls. I came out that I thankfully have no disease, and I am clear since I have been pretty much sexless from her for the last year. I wasn't all that surprised. Now, for the one that I am sure most of you are wondering, the test on my two girls, am I the dad? I will always be their dad, regardless of the results. However, I am here to say that yes, I am their father. I have never been so happy to know that I am their dad. Never thought I would have to question it, but here we are. As for what has happened with my stacks, well, she is out of the house and I have been granted full temporary custody. In the future, I will go into more specific details. However, for now, she is out of the house. My lawyer set everything up for me to get my girls and make sure that we legally handled her being removed from the home. It wasn't pretty, but details for another time. She was served at work, and from what I know, it wasn't pretty. Like I said though, details for another time. My girls know what is going on. My oldest knows we are separating, and one of her friend's parents split for the same reason. She has seen what happened with her friend and doesn't want us to split. She has been crying for me to let mommy come home. I will be getting them in with the child's therapist to explain and help them understand. From the direction of my lawyer, my youngest just wants mommy to come home and misses her. It kills me and makes me feel like a terrible father, and they probably hate me now. Sometimes I think I should just let their mother cheat on me to keep the family unit to make my girls happy. I just can't do that. Sometimes I think about allowing an open relationship and we can just wait till the girls are older, but that won't work for me. Plus, I know the girls will pick up on it and will not like it that mommy and daddy don't love each other. As for my ex, she is living with her mother at this point. My mother-in-law has called me and asked to meet. I agreed, and we will meet at some point. She didn't ask for details as she said we will talk later, but begged me not to take her granddaughters away from her. I said you are a great and loving grandmother, and as long as you can separate my girls from what is going on between your daughter and I see no issue with you being able to see them, and I will not take them out of your life." She thanked me, and that is it. My ex has been trying to call me and text me trying to figure out us under direction of my lawyer. He has had it set up so that I can talk to her through a trackable method, and it is purely about the girls, no more no less. So that is it for now. We'll probably keep updating, and once this is all over with, I will make one big update for all the details I have to be careful about as of now. Updates. So first off, I had Thanksgiving with my SBX and Mill. I did this purely for the girls and made sure with my lawyer this was only about the girls and not about Reconciliation Nation. That was taken care of first. I met with my Mill pre-Thanksgiving. We met and had a pretty mutual discussion, mainly just things about how we will handle my daughters. After my Mill did tell me some stuff about my SBX. I guess my SBX was cheated on by her high school boyfriend. Didn't even know she dated anyone. I guess this guy came from one of those families according to my Mill, and they told her to avoid him. Well, I guess one night she caught him with his head under another girl's dress and tongue deep in a girl's jewelry box. She had a couple of boyfriends they met in college, but she knew they wouldn't last. She said that as soon as she met me, she found her son-in-law. She says she is so sorry for her daughter's actions and will make sure that she doesn't try to do anything problematic with the divorce. Anyway, a couple of days before Thanksgiving, my Mill asked for me to come over for dinner with the girls. I asked if her daughter would be there, and she said yes. I said I can't be with her there. She said she understands, but asked if we could put on the holiday one more time for the girls. She said, "I know you have a lawyer. Ask them, and if they said it is a bad idea, I get it." I did, and they said to tell your wife via the app this is purely for the girls to avoid any confusion. So I did. She had contacted me before about coming over. She has been begging me to see me and the girls. The girls have been begging me to see their mom. I swallowed my pride for my girls, and we went. It was awkward. My SBX gave our daughters a hug fine, then tried to hug and kiss me. I just avoided her and went to give my Mill a hug. My SBX tried to act like husband and wife and was trying to talk to me. I answered with yes and no's and helped my Mill finish dinner and clean up. My Mill is religious and wanted to do a prayer, and my SBX sat next to me. I held my daughter's hand. My wife tried to grab, I pulled away. I know it may seem petty, but I don't want her touching me. I am an atheist, but out of respect for my Mill, I go along with it. Dinner was fine again. SBX tried to act like we were going to be married and asked about Christmas and vacations. When she mentioned this stuff, I knew going over was a mistake. We finished dinner, and I pretty much got up, cleaned my daughter's dishes, then was ready to go. My daughters wanted to watch a movie with their mother that we always watch. I let them, and my SBX tried to cuddle next to me on the couch. I sat in the chair after that. My Mill was very mad at my SBX the whole night for how she acted. I could tell by the look she gave her. My daughters fell asleep, so I carried them to the car. I went in to grab something, and my SBX grabbed me in tears, begging me to work on things and that she wants to be a family and is so sorry for what happened. Before I could say anything, my Mill grabbed her by the hair, not joking, yanked her, and told me good night, then began yelling at her daughter. My wife is still calling and begging now to work on us. I leave her on scene. I will only talk about the girls, and I am sure they are going to want to do the same for Christmas. I don't know if I can or if it is okay. Once again, I will discuss this with my lawyer. Final update, this will not be long, but things have gotten very bad for my girls. Basically, my girls had 2 sessions this week with their therapist. The first one was good. My girls came out with what seemed to be more peaceful and calmer than usual. I talked to the therapist after, and she seemed to be very good and understood my girls well. So I took them to their second one, and things went horribly. Basically, the therapist explained in age-appropriate terms that the reason me and their mother are separating is because their mother cheated, had an affair, and betrayed me. I knew eventually she would, but I didn't think it would happen this soon. I went to get my girls, and basically, it was a burst of tears and them climbing all over me and giving me hugs, crying, saying they love me. I am happy they love me, but this is not what I wanted to happen with my girls. I asked the therapist why did she tell them. She said the girls knew you two are separating, and the girls noticed you seemed to be really mean and unloving with their mother. Your girls aren't stupid, she told me. They know how you are, and they know how you treat their mom. They wanted to know why you were separating. I tried to walk around it the best I could, she said, but the girls are not going to progress in therapy if we don't tell them. I am not going to go into detail on what exactly she said to them, but it was age-appropriate. They now know the age-appropriate version of their mother being unfaithful. I think my oldest could maybe handle this and be okay, but not my youngest. So we get home, and my girls won't let go of me. They're literally crying the whole night. So I ordered food, put their favorite movies on in my bedroom, and we laid there all night. They fell asleep, and I went to the bathroom and just cried. My SDX doesn't even realize the pain she is causing our girls. I don't know how I am going to deal with this. The therapist told me we could try medication for a bit till they get used to the new normal. I refused to do so, which she supported, and said it was just an option as I'm not drugging them. Disclaimer: she cannot give the drugs. She said they would need to see their primary and they would probably diagnose my girls with something that would allow them to medicate them. I would rather deal with my daughter's emotions the healthy way. I won't have to worry about Christmas, as my daughters hate their mother now. My oldest said she never wanted to see her mom again. My youngest follows what her older sister says, even though she may actually agree. I was shocked. I said, "You don't hate her. You may be mad, but you don't hate her. She loves and cares about you." My oldest just said, "No, she doesn't," and then just cried into my arms until she fell asleep, and so did my youngest. So this is my life now.